that was the example. That was just, you say it and you just have to do it. It's not going to come to you. You just, if you're going to say it, you have to follow it with your actions, and you have to manifest it with how much do you want it, and is it within your spirit that once you have it, can you hold it, can you keep it? And that is only your etiquette that's going to dictate whether you're going to keep it or not. Yeah, so what happened is my mother and my father met in Miami, and when they got married there, and they had my sister and I in Miami. We were born in Miami, and when I turned 3 years old, back then the dollar and el Bolivar, which is the national coin in Venezuela, was actually very close.
Really?
So because Venezuela is the number one reserve oil in the world, and was one of the richest countries when it comes to natural resources. So they were exporting, a very, very influential amount on a global scale.
Right.
So the agricultural industry was booming because they were exporting, you name it, right? Yeah. And my dad, found passion in the agriculture industry, and he decided that it was time to move back to Venezuela for business, and we went back to work, and also he's Venezuelan. My mother is Colombian, so they went back to what they knew, and living in America was amazing at the time. But they went back to their roots, and so they brought my sister and I to Venezuela, and we were raised in Venezuela, probably a third in Colombia, most of the time in Venezuela.
Sure.
And so we were raised in Venezuela until I was about 13 and change, almost 14 years old. And around that time, the country politically and economically was showing signs. There was flags being thrown on the field.
It's crazy right now.
I mean, and the point is that I saw the start of the evolution, of the deconstruction of a country that was so influential in South America.
Yeah.
And so my dad saw the first national coup, and when it didn't succeed, the first one didn't succeed. It was led by a young military guy named Hugo Chavez. And my dad said, okay, guys, this is not looking really good. Corruption is taking a toll on the economy. Corruption is taking a toll on the last 10 years of growth. And my parents decided it was time to come back to the United States. And really the reason why we came back was to, and I quote from my dad, to say, mijo, get the education that I never had. And to me, that was really significant, and that was something that I was told when I was 13. And so when I came to the United States, I felt like that was my job. My actual full-time job was to get the education my parents never had an opportunity to have.
And you didn't speak English then, or did you?
I didn't even know how to speak English. In fact, this is the thing that sucked the most about it. Because my dad was like, okay, so here's what happened. So I was, in Venezuela and in Latin America, they make you take an English class. And if you don't have an interest in English class, it's okay for you to flunk it.
Right.
You failed it, and I was failing all my English classes. And then my dad literally 1 month tells me, okay, Marilyn, Stephanie, Wilmer, we're moving back to the United States. I go, huh? Because I literally at this point I was always saying to myself, I'm never gonna have to need how to speak English. Like I live in Venezuela, I don't speak Spanish over here. Why would I ever learn how to speak English? I'm never gonna go to America. We'll cut to packing our bags and and having to relocate to the United States and knowing that the first thing I had to do was learn how to speak English and be the first one in my family to speak English. We were in Miami for a couple of weeks, and fairly quickly we realized that there was really not much for us there. My dad had a brother.
How many jobs there?
I mean, it's, my dad, it just literally, it was not necessarily what my dad wanted for us, We drove cross country, got to know the country on a different level, seeing the American flag everywhere was so eye-opening, It just, you knew it was a land of the opportunity, And we went all the way to Los Angeles, and when we got to Los Angeles...
Why LA?
Well, my dad had a brother here.
Okay.
One of his brothers had a little rental car place, close to LAX.
Yeah.
And he said, you know, come out here, stay with us, you know, for, you know, a couple weeks, 6 weeks or whatever, so while you get it together and get a job and do your thing. My dad said, okay, perfect. And we landed in Los Angeles. Well, we drove into Los Angeles, and we went to stay with my uncle and his wife and a couple of my cousins. And, you know, the point was that my dad had sold everything he had in Venezuela so we can have enough capital to establish a life out here without having to really struggle with it. Right. And being at my uncle's house for a couple of weeks, you know, maybe like 2-3 months or something, was going to help him really slowly really get the right house and those different things, and help him get enough of a job so he can have at least a month of income, you know. Well, weekend, that really went south.
Right.
It was not going to work. You know, my mom and my uncle's wife just did not get along. And there was something terrible and really bad that happened between them, and we were just like, okay, we should move out, you know. And really what happened was, you know, if I can be just super open and raw about it, you know, my parents were helping with the groceries too, you know. So, you know, I went to open the refrigerator. It was so stupid. It was so silly. But I opened the refrigerator and I got a popsicle. And my uncle's wife grabbed the popsicle off my hand, put it back in, and said, that's not for you. And my mom just lost her mind. Like, lost her mind. I've never seen my mom black out, you know. And we're calling my dad and my uncle and like, hey, at the time, we're like 13 years old, 14 years old. We're like, what do we do? Right. And, you know, my parents came and he was like, you know, we have to figure it out. So we got into a hotel, you know, and during that hotel stay, you know, my dad was, you know, obviously burning some cash to try to keep us going, you know, and then eventually we got this little tiny house in Van Nuys, you know, in Van Nuys, California, and got a house. It was like a 2-bedroom little house where the living room and the kitchen and the dining room was all in one space, you know, and we had a nice tiny little backyard. And my sister and I share one room, and my younger sister was sleeping in the same room with my parents. So, and that was the beginning. That was how we just kind of got, you know, got established. Back in Venezuela, I lived in a very small town. I'm talking like I don't know, 19,000 people. Right, and spread out in 2 little zip codes that were basically so small that were pretty much considered as a city. You know, it was called Acarigua and Araure. So when people talked about the Estado Portugueses, you know, Acarigua and Araure, they'd be like, where are you from? They'd be like, Acarigua, Araure, you know, because it was this small little town. Went to school there, but they only have one movie theater all year round, and they have one movie theater, and they only play one movie all year round.
One movie?
And
for the whole year?
Yeah, and it was RoboCop. Wow. And I would watch RoboCop
in English?
back to in English. And they had the subtitles.
Sure.
But I would watch RoboCop, and ever since I started watching RoboCop, I'm like, oh, this is so cool. That's so fun, you know, and I was a huge fan of the bad guy in it. And that's relevant because I'll come full circle to it, you know. But there was nothing to do, so performing arts is something that's big in Latin America, you know, and in Venezuela it's also even more serious, you know. So I enrolled into these classes, and I started doing singing, dancing, and acting, and I started doing a lot of theater. And but I was doing it since I was 6 years old. Wow. So when I came to the United States, I felt like the one thing that was gonna improve my speaking skills and was gonna force me to read and force me to speak out loud and, like, you know, and kind of break out of that shell was to go back to theater. Really? So I went back to theater, not even really knowing how to speak English. And I think my first character was playing the Beast and Beauty and the Beast in junior high. And here's why that's really funny. It's because I didn't have any lines. So
he was like, ah.
I basically, my teacher would literally recite the Beast's lines off stage, and I would just mime as if I was speaking.
Perfect.
So it was the easiest job, but the funnest too. I'm like the Beast, you know, I'm the Beast and Beauty and the Beast, and you know, in the whole time, I'm like, someone is speaking for me off camera, and I'm just off stage, pretending that, like, you know, I'm the one saying it. But that was my first acting thing.
That's funny.
Because I really didn't know how to speak English, but I wanted to be in theater.
Right.
And the teacher was kind enough to let me in there. Not knowing I couldn't even read a script.
Right. That's cool. So you got back into it pretty much right away. And being in LA, it was probably like different opportunities here to do that.
Yeah. I mean, I think mostly what happened was, for me, was, you know, it was just, the more I did theater, the better my English became.
Right.
And the faster I learned how to communicate. And then fairly quickly I realized that knowing how to speak English was the only weapon I needed in order to go out there and defend myself and conquer, right? As soon as, like, English was part of my utility belt, I knew that absolutely anything can happen now. Because if I could learn how to speak a crazy language like this at 14, 15 years old, I'm going to be unstoppable, you know? And that's kind of what happened, you know? I mean, did a lot of theater, and then at some point the teacher said to me, you know, hey, you know, you're pretty funny. You should give it a try, you know? And I said, well, maybe I should give it a try, because I don't even know how to start, you know? So she told me, doing a couple of commercials here and there, you know, you make some money and stuff. And I sold it to my dad as, like, Dad, I have good grades, so if I keep continuing my good grades, can you take me to some auditions?
Yeah.
And my dad said, mijo, you, my dad always sounded like he was drunk. Like, if you want to do it, it's okay, but ace. That's all he wanted. Ace. I was like, okay, Dad. So I was kind of a pretty good student.
That's good.
But yeah, so that's kind of how I started. I think it was my theater experience in high school that made me feel like I can get used to this. Like, I'm having a lot of fun. Maybe I should do more theater.
Yeah.
I knew this. I wasn't thinking I was going to be in the commercials and the movies and TVs. Like, my ambition was to just kind of continue to do theater, because I was, you know, I wanted to be a pilot for the Air Force, you know. And if not, I wanted to be a psychologist. You know, I just wanted to, like, study minds and help people and all that.
Wow.
And then, you know, they said to me, the teacher said to me, hey, listen, you know, I think you should go out and audition and stuff, you know. And I had met this drama teacher outside of my high school named Celeste Boy. And Celeste, honestly, is the reason why I confidently said, I'm going to be the best at this. I'm going to be the best at anything I do will be remembered. Like, she was the one that kind of groomed me. And she said, hey, I want to teach you, I want to bring you to my acting class on Wednesdays.
She's a pretty well known, right? I feel like I've heard that name.
Celeste, I mean, if you're in the industry, you know who she is.
Yeah, I've heard her name before.
She's someone that iconically has helped so many people too.
Yeah, that's what I've heard.
And I hope that she continues. And she's still doing it, because she's an amazing woman. But
so she brought you into her class.
She brought me into her class, and I said, I can't pay for it. I was about 16. I was about 16 years old. I said, by the way, I can't pay for it. I have no money. And she was like, no, I want to teach you for free.
Wow.
And I said, wow, that's amazing. I said, can I bring my sister? She's like, okay, you can bring your sister. My sister and I did everything together. And she, you know, her class, it was 40-year-olds, 30-year-olds, 20-year-olds, you know, and as a 16-year-old just trying to do scenes, to learn from all these awesome actors that were older than me was great practice. And she introduced me to an agent. The agent said, I'm not gonna represent you, but I'm gonna take you out and see what kind of feedback we get. Right?
It's kind of like representing, right? I mean,
kind of, but it's a probation.
Without committing.
It's like a probation way of representing somebody. So, you know, so he sent me on this Doritos commercial, and they called him and he says, look, the kid is awesome. Like, he's really, really good. He's really funny, but he has a crazy accent, and we cannot take him because Latinos on television shouldn't have an accent. And this was back in '96, you know, or so. So they, but I just know the kid is really good, and the agent's like, all right, cool. So he sent me on another commercial, which I got, literally the second commercial I got.
Wow. Which
was a Pacific Bell Smart Yellow Pages commercial. It was a regional commercial.
Pagers.
pages, like
Pages,
the yellow
gotcha,
pages.
Gotcha.
So it was the Pacific Bell Smart Yellow Pages, and it was original. It was for California, and it was in Spanish.
Perfect.
It's perfect.
Perfect.
And I had the irony is that the only line in the commercial was the Pacific Bell Smart Yellow Pages. I didn't have to speak Spanish at all in the commercial. But it was very nice. They had my fake family, and I was like, well, I got a fake family. It's my fake dad, my fake mom, it's my fake sister. This is crazy. And then so I went in there and I did the commercial. It was awesome. And with that money, I paid my dues, and I became a Screen Actors Guild member.
Wow.
I became a SAG member. And then he's like, okay, send you a couple of other things. And I started booking things back to back to back because I was having so much fun. Like I wasn't scared, no pressure. I wasn't scared. Like this.
I have to get this.
That's right. The audition, I didn't depend on the audition. So I started booking job after job, and then I remember, and this is the part that's the most significant to me in my life. I remember there was a time where, when I was about to turn 18 years old, and this is about almost 2 years into me auditioning and stuff, and getting little commercials here and there, little spots, and still doing theater in school. My dad was running errands for this mechanic shop, so he would bring parts over, and that's how he would get paid with his errands. And he did that for a couple other places, and he would get in there and try to give the mechanic shops and stuff. And I remember that one night there's a little commotion in the house, 2 a.m. in the morning, and I see my mom and my dad scuffling in the living room, and I say, what's going on? I get up. And I asked my dad, what happened? And my dad said to me, they stole our car. And if you know anything about anything in Los Angeles, if you don't have a car, I mean, it's like...
Can't get anywhere.
You can't get anywhere. And my dad's complete hustle, relied on that car. And my dad is really worried. My mom is crying. And I just, at 15 years old, I looked at my dad, 15, 16 years old, so... I looked at my dad and I said, Dad, don't worry, because, I'm going to be this famous actor, and I'm going to be a famous actor, and I'm going to produce, I'm going to direct, and I'm going to have these companies, I'm going to have restaurants, and I'm going to have all these businesses, and we're never going to have to worry about this, and I'm going to buy us a house. And my dad looked at me and he said, okay, mijo, you can do that. And it was, to me, it felt like he gave me permission to do it.
Wow.
When he said you can do that, I felt like in that moment, I felt like my dad has said, go ahead, you can do that. While I figure out this car situation, you go ahead and become what you want to become.
Wow.
So I went the next day, I went to school, and we walked to school the next day. And I got to school, and I hit the books extra harder. And every time I got on stage, I was performing louder than anybody else, and I would eat everyone's meal. And I was like, this is mine. And he, and then this teacher said, man, let's take you to the advanced class. You want to? And so I was helping producing the plays. And then at some point, I wasn't even supposed to say this, but my drama teacher will go on her own auditions and will leave me teaching drama.
Wow.
So it was I was so into it. It's like, this is going to work, but I also, in the afternoons, I would play with my Salvadorian, Mexican, I was in a soccer league. So people always wonder, you were in the country for so long, how do you still have an accent? And I go, well, because I play soccer with Mexicans and Salvadorians and Guatemaltecos and every day. And I feel like that's the reason. My sister has zero accent because she had a bunch of white girlfriends that would go to the mall all the time, and she would say the word like a lot, But anyhow, fast forward, that happened. I told my dad that, and I remember, kept auditioning and stuff. And at the worst time of our lives, my agent sends me on this audition. It's my first pilot audition. And he said, here's the sites, go and audition. I go in, have a meeting, audition. They call me back again. And they say, hey, we're going to bring you back to producers. And I go, I'm getting a call back. That's great. But in my mind, I'm like, this is mine.
Wow.
I'm getting this pilot. I'm getting this pilot. It's my first pilot ever. And I went to the last audition, and they told me, just have a little more fun with it. It's very cool. So I went in, audition. First of all, they bring you a contract. When you go to network auditions, they bring you a contract, and they go, hey, listen, you were gonna make, I think, $15,000 for the pilot, and if it goes to series, you're gonna make $10,000 per episode. And
that's a lot of money back then.
are you kidding me? I was like,
17-year-old. You're like,
that was like more money that we made in the year.
Yeah.
So I looked to my dad and I said, Dad, could you imagine if I get this? Could you imagine if I get this right now? Like, even if it doesn't go to series, it's gonna really help us, you know. And my dad said to me, without missing a beat, he said to me, Mijo, if you get it, very good. If you don't get it, very good. And I said, okay, very good. And I walked in and I just auditioned, stress-free, because I knew if I got it, awesome. If I didn't get it, awesome too. We're back to the drawing board, you know. I go home. My agent calls me and says, hey, good news. They want you to come back tomorrow. And I told my dad, hey, Dad, and everyone's on the phone, like, listening. I said, hey, Dad, we got to call back. We're really close. And then the agent says, they want you to come back tomorrow, and the day after that, and the day after that, and the day after that, and the day after that. And everyone's like crying and going crazy. And we're like, Jesus Christ, what just happened? Lord, thank you so much.
Wow.
And then that moment, I looked out, saw the American flag, and I said, this is what it's about. How much more can I do? How much more can I go? How hard can I go, you know? And I said to myself that everything I did in this pilot was going to be the most memorable. I said to myself, this is everything that comes out of my mouth. I'm going to work, and nobody's going to fire me from this job. All I kept saying is, I don't want to get fired. I went in, did the pilot. Maybe like a month later, I get a phone call from my agent again. Says, hey, listen, congratulations. He said, good news and bad news. I said, what's the bad news? He goes, well, the bad news is that they changed the name of the show from Teenage Wasteland to That 70s Show. And the good news is that you're going on television. The show is going on Fox, and they ordered 13 episodes.
It's huge.
And I said, wait, the show's about the 70s? No idea. I was like, oh, I think this is American stress, I guess, in Wisconsin. I don't know, you know?
Right.
I had no idea the show was about the 70s. And then comes to find out, the show goes on for 8 years, 200 episodes, and kind of paved the way for everything I'm doing today now. And then I remember the day, like that week before I got this pilot, my mom and I were walking over to the 99 cent stores to get our groceries, you know. And I remember walking over it and, you know, walking a couple of miles to get back to the house with the bags and see my mom's hands, you know, really red, taking the bags. And, you know, we would rest every 2 blocks. We put our bags down and carry and continue. And I looked at my dad, I looked at my mom and I said, Mom, don't worry, because one day we're going to drive, you know, and one day we did. And that's just, that was the example. That was just, you say it, and you just have to do it. It's not gonna come to you. If you're gonna say it, you have to follow it with your actions, and you have to manifest it with how much do you want it, and is it within your spirit that once you have it, can you hold it? Can you keep it? And that is only your etiquette that's going to dictate whether you're gonna keep it or not. You know, so I look back on my mom and my dad. I retired both of them, and you know, the first thing I did when we got picked up on the show, I bought a house. And I said, we're not paying rent anymore, because we were like 3 months late in rent when I got the pilot, you know. So that was the beginning of my career and really the American dream I was about to experience. Reality. You live a reality in our countries that kids out here will just never feel. We'll have a tough time understanding empathy. Or empathy. Like, we can sympathize in our countries with opportunity. We can take advantage of opportunity. South America. Yeah. Specifically Venezuela. A reality that unfortunately most young people today can only appreciate through an Instagram post. That gave me the edge. When I came here and I saw, you gotta keep in mind, our 6 o'clock news was decapitations and school buses getting sprayed by AKs and, you know, cartel movement and you know, and you know, bombings and you know, senators who were getting murdered and police corruption and all that stuff. And you're talking about a crazy level of danger that affects the poorest and the richest community all at the same. And then you come to America, and people are talking about, oh, another drive-by. And they're talking about, like, the violence in, you know, in the hoods. To me, that was like, what? This is Disneyland. We are in Disneyland. Like this, the United States is the best, is the purest place on earth. Like literally anything can happen in this place. You have an environment. You can literally choose the environment you want to be in.
Right. You can get out of the hood and be somewhere else. And
That's
safe.
correct. That's correct.
Well, it didn't happen in Venezuela or where
No.
you were. It was
you
like
moved 3 blocks away, same thing as you block 8 blocks away, or if you go to a different state.
Yeah.
So I think the edge for us was that is also appreciating the best and worst of your country, and then coming over here and appreciating the best and worst of the United States.
Yeah.
You know, and I think.
What do you mean we're not perfect here?
Exactly, exactly. No, but I think, and to elaborate a little bit more on what I mean by that is that if you can really keep your eyes open, and if you can listen to your atmosphere, and if you could pay attention to what's happening in the world, you can be invincible. Especially if you live in this country.
Yeah.
You can absolutely achieve anything. Like, I just gave you a glimpse at you know, the first 10 years of my life and literally the first 4 years of my life in this country. And in that glimpse of it, if it doesn't tell you that, like, you have zero excuse, you know, I don't know what else can, you know. But I come full circle to, like, coming from Venezuela, knowing that right now, 20 years later or so, Venezuela is, you know, middle class people have to stand in line. Doctors, you know, professors are homeless right now. You know, they're standing in line to get a carton of milk and a bag of rice, and then they X their hands so they don't come back for a second one, and they are organized based on the last digits of your driver license and your ID, and you think about a country that, you know, that had, I mean, the richest resources and was exporting and was, you know, it's sad, you know. You look at that, and then so knowing where you come from, it's crazy important. Never forgetting where you came from is really the edge you have on anyone that may be considered a competition. And that's something else I tell young people when I speak and I do speeches and stuff is you know, competition is a state of mind. You know, if you believe in competition, look, in sports, 100%. But an athlete that wins over everyone and goes out there and plays harder than anybody else is because they know the only person they're competing with is themselves. And you've heard it, and you've seen it in billboards, and you see it in inspirational posts, but you should really study what that means, because the only one that holds you back is yourself.
Yeah.
I never compared myself to anyone when I got here. I was embarrassed about my accent for a second, and then I learned to find pride in it.
Yeah.
And then at that point, anything counted. But
That's
my edge
good.
was that, you know, knowing where you come from. I think my dad said two things that really kind of made all the difference for me. And I think that the first one was, you know, in that auditioning room, before I went into the 7th show, he says, Mio, you know, if you get it, you know, very good. If you don't get it, you're very good. It was so simple in the moment, but I've carried that, you know, through my mind throughout my career. And honestly, what it did is it made me fearless. It made me fearless to experience failure. Like, many of us put so much emphasis on winning something, or achieving something, or getting a job, or getting a break, or getting that part, or, you know. The truth is that was one of the most substantial pieces of, you know, metaphorical lessons that I got, was that if you win, great, and if you don't win, that's awesome. You walk away with something anyways, and that's a success. It's a version of success, and I think that's what really changed my perspective, and that's why I felt like I was booking so much back to back to back, and when I went to that audition on the 70s show, it made me so fearless that I went in there. I had nothing to lose.
Nothing. Yeah.
And then when I walked away, gaining everything. And I think so. I think that's something that I hope young people can listen and say, hey, wow, don't fear failure. To be honest, you should fear success. That's the thing you should fear. Failure is a consequence of maybe, chance, lack of preparation, timing. There's so many elements, and none of those elements are personal, except for, did you prepare? Were you not prepared enough? Did you give it your all shot? If you can walk away saying, I gave it everything, I didn't get it, awesome, it wasn't for me. But it's when you don't give it your 100% that you fear the failure. That's a fact, especially in my line of work, especially if you're an actor, if you're a musician. If you go on stage and you do a showcase, if you're doing theater, if you're doing your first commercial, whatever, you get fired, you say they let you go, they give you less lines or whatever, there may be preparation, but if it's not, it's also not personal. I think the other thing that my dad said that made a lot of sense to me was, it wasn't what he said, it was mostly the way he lives life. He laughs at a funeral. Like, right. My dad finds a way to really find humor in the most dramatic moments, and I learned that from him, and that also made me accept faster. It made me analyze and accept and find the positive in the bad. So seeing my dad have a great sense of humor, like even when they stole the car, my dad, we're really stressed, and then like an hour later he goes, okay, we're gonna have to buy new shoes, so and that's like that kind of mentality is what made me feel like, oh, okay, well, I can accept life and its punches and its hurdles and its disasters. And it's a state of mind, right? So so I always tell people, and tell me what you think about this, but I always tell people, and I'm curious to see what you think about this, but I always tell people, and people in relationships and in friendships, and sometimes they have fallouts and people are they hurt each other's feelings in relationships and all that stuff, and they dwell on the things that were done, and they stress and they make things really complicated. And I always think that things are going to be as complicated as you want them to be. And they're also going to be as simple as you make them to be, right? So I always feel like when something complicated happens, you have to remove yourself. You got to pull on the parachute and be like, let me look at it from bird's eye, because because when you're in it too much and you put the blinders, I feel like the problem is way bigger than you can control.
Become consumed by it. You can't get out of it. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I agree with that for sure. Yeah.
Cool. Well, I'm glad you agree with that. But that was
No, I believe in that too. Yeah.
But it's going to be as complicated as you want it to be, and it's going to be as simple as you want it to be.
It's all perspective.
To get down from there, because I got hurt every time.
Get down from that tree.
From there, get down every time, because she knew I was gonna get hurt.
That's funny.
And this is why I think it's one of the best words of advice I've ever gotten. It's because there are certain things you're pushing. There's certain things you just know you're trying to get away with. And when she told me, get down from there, it was this like hunting voice. It was like, get down from there. You're going to get hurt.
Right.
And I got hurt every time.
Really?
I got hurt every time. And I think it's like, in the times that I climbed the tree, or the times that I pushed the envelope on whatever subject or category of the conversation, I pushed it without knowing whether I was going to win or not. Or I pushed it without actually really knowing whether I was right or wrong. So knowing that you have this voice in your head that says, get down from there, which came from my mother. Most of us have this voice that either tells us either yes or no, My mom just kind of set a precedent that she just knew better than me.
Yeah.
And FYI, your parents are always and will always be way smarter than you, no matter how smart you think you are. Period. They're
Years of
always going to have
experience.
30 years on you, and you can never get to 30 years or 40 years of experience. So your parents will always be smarter than you. And if you think your parents don't relate to you because they don't understand what you're going through,
They do.
you're so wrong.
Yeah.
Because you got to remember they were teenagers too. I agree. I mean, look, that's the upside. I mean, what I mostly what I want to come across with my mom saying that is that when you have the support of your parents, you should have your heart open. And they supported me through everything I wanted to do. They never limited me. They never told me I couldn't do it. But there is families, man. There are, and I tell you, it happened in my family. I had family members. I had uncles who were telling my dad, "What is your kid doing? He's wasting his life. My kid is honors in mathematics."
Right.
My mom was like, "Well, what is he going to do with that?"
Yeah, exactly.
And I had certain aunts from my mom's side that will be like, "My kid just graduated with honors in something, something, something," and my mom will be like, "Oh, well, he just did another play, and yeah, he was very funny." And but my parents, were pretty cool with that. But you have to be aware that even sometimes your family will be the problem. But you have to believe in yourself, in order for you to identify that moment too. I was very lucky because the cast of that 70s show, Ashton Kutcher, Topher Grace, Danny Masterson, Laura Prepon, Mila Kunis, Kurtwood Smith, Deborah Jo Rupp, and the creators of the show, Bonnie and Terry Turner and Mark Brazil, and the producers, Tom Warner and Marcy Carsey, and Peter Roth, the president of Fox at the time. They were great role models, and they gave us really early advice that really kind of helped us stay grounded, but there was a window of my life where I thought I had to do certain things because those certain things were what defined an actor in success.
Like what?
Like going out a little too much,
partying.
Going to the places you're gonna get photographed for no reason, things like that, and then only for 1 year I hung out with people that I really I had no interest and had no relativity with. We couldn't relate. We didn't see things the same way. But when the music is loud, you kind of drown all that out, and then you just kind of think that that's a real friendship.
Yeah.
I had to do a real inventory in my life to understand that I had bigger purpose, and that that my ambition was bigger than just being out at a club all the time.
Yeah.
I enjoy celebrating my successes. So if you ever see me out, it's because something awesome just happened and something I closed a monster deal or something like that, and I'm celebrating. But the days of me just randomly going out for a run, that hasn't happened. It's 8 years, 9 years or so. I think that's something that really helped me get centered and get some of that youth back, And I think when you're young, you should allow yourself to go out there and experiment and do what you got to do. But based on the road and what I wanted to achieve, I needed to make certain changes. So, but the cast of the 70s show, we held each other down, right? We never had to hang out with anyone else because we thought they were cool. In the most humble terms, I can say we were the coolest.
Right.
And
we're fun to hang out with, yeah.
We're going to hang out with this crowd, And the reason why I say that is because we were real people that just so happened to get an extraordinary job. And think about the generation before Dawson's Creek and the 70s show, and the generation after. That moment in time.
The reality shows,
before that hit, and right as soon as Seinfeld was leaving the air, there were some new kids in town. And I remember it was the cast of Dawson's Creek, and it was the cast of that 70s show. Melrose Place and 90210 were having their last seasons.
Yep.
And it was back in 1998, between 1998 and 2006. We were real people that had extraordinary jobs. And I'm talking, Justin Timberlake, Jessica Biel, Jessica Alba, Ashton, the whole cast I just mentioned. By the way, Jamie Foxx, Mark Wahlberg, Leonardo DiCaprio, Tobey Maguire, real people that you talk to and you feel connected to. It was a very, very unique country club.
Yeah.
And we'll never have that moment again,
Yeah.
But I gotta tell you, that really also helped, because those people had no problem telling you, hey man, you don't gotta do that. You should hang out over here instead.
Right. Don't do that stuff.
Yeah.
Kind of like your mom. Get down.
Yeah, okay, man, get down from there. Get down from there. Yeah. But yeah, so I think that helped. I think that truly helped.
Cool.
The dynamic that we had back then, it really helped. And you look at now, I'm 37 years old, and from 17 years old to 37, the fact that all of us are still here, swinging as hard as we did, and doing absolutely anything we want to do when we want to do it, and the world and the studios and the Hollywood and the fans are still welcome us is like, I don't even know what it's the biggest blessing we could ever.
Maybe from a moment or from the entire experience or something they did or said.
From the Castle show?
Yeah.
We inspire one another. We kind of held each other up. And I think it was how real we were. I do have to say that Danny Masterson really said a really great. He'd been in the game longer than us at the time. He'd done Roseanne and Sybil and all that, and he was already in that company for a while. And he kind of showed us a couple of places that we could hang out and stay out of trouble. And we would go to this. Every Friday night after the show, we would go to this bar called La Poubelle on Franklin, and we just kind of just sit outside,
chill,
fresh air, chill, talk, and laugh, and that was fun. So Danny kind of set it a good tone for all of us, as in like he never had to, he was never in the scene. We kind of created our own bubble, and he started that. And then after that, I think Ashton, Danny, and I became best friends, and we never let one do something that would be jeopardizing or anyone. I think that's one thing I think Ashton, Danny, and I did for one another, and they really helped me understand, is that I didn't have to do anything based on any other perception or assumption, that I could just be.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you have any regrets from anything in that show or that time?
No, I don't regret. I tell you, I don't regret anything. I appreciate every mistake. Regretting mistakes is a waste of time. Yeah. You got to embrace the mistakes. There was times in my life where I felt things and have made mistakes, and misjudge certain things that I did or said, that really cost me a lot of pain and a lot of sadness. But I also appreciated that lesson, because it made me a better man, a better friend, and realized that I had to make some quick changes if I was going to really still be around at 37. I learned really strong lessons from the sitcoms of the 80s and the early 90s. I mentioned the cast of Dawson's Creek and the cast of 70 Show. I feel like, again, we were in this moment in time where for the first time, the film studios were looking at this group of kids as real estate. Like, what if we get, James Vanderbeek to be in Varsity Blues? What if we get Ashton to be in, whatever movies he did, right? And what if you got Wilmer and Summer Catch and, and Unaccompanied Minors and all the early things that I did. Same thing with the rest, Katie Holmes and Joshua Jackson. Like at that time, that we were given an opportunity to kind of prove ourselves for more than a TV actor. Yeah. Because at the time, the perception was that if you were a TV actor, you did TV. Yeah. If you did movies, you did movies. If you were in the category of supporting characters like a Fez on that 70 show, you were destined to never work again. Okay? Yeah. Somehow, you're supposed to get stuck. Yep. You're supposed to just be like, forever.
You're the
like,
Karate Kid. You're the Karate Kid forever, right?
Like you're literally going to be that, right? But I think that I thank I thank Shani Rosens, why I go over at UTA, and my whole team, my management team at the time too. Shani and Nancy Gates and Tracy Jacobs at the time, and they saw me for so much more, and they saw me for so much more than I really believed in myself, but they had to teach me to believe that I could be everything else I wanted to be, right?
Producer.
Yeah.
Director.
Yes.
Whatever, entrepreneur.
Yes.
Whatever.
You can do
singer,
anything.
dancer, anything.
Everything.
Yeah.
Everything. If I had the talent, then we should be using it.
Mm-hmm.
That was the philosophy.
Yeah.
And but I also have to thank a few people for that transition, because it was a slow burn. We were still on the 70s show when I was going out and doing, did Summer Catch with Freddie Prinze Jr. and Matthew Lillard, and then I went and did Party Monster with Randy and Fenton over at World of Wonder, and that was my first, crazy dark underground movie. That was a Sundance darling who's opened, Pride Festival, and it was the life of Michael Alec in New York City, and and I got to perform with Seth Green and Macaulay Culkin's return film, and Marilyn Manson and Dylan McDermott and Chloe Sevigny, and to be given an opportunity to do a movie that was so raw and and it became such a cult, that was really important to me. So I started doing things that would show the industry, not so much like the masses, right? Like, unfortunately, the masses only see me maybe in Summer Catch, and maybe 70s Show, maybe Unaccompanied Minors, perhaps, because that was a big studio movie too.
But in the industry, everyone's seeing it.
Right. So the industry was seeing Party Monster. They were seeing, and Fast Food Nation. Fast Food Nation was one of the biggest moments in my career. Even though
the documentary? What am I thinking?
No,
of?
the film by Richard Linklater.
I'm thinking Super Size Me.
Yeah, you're thinking Super Size Me. Yes.
Yeah.
So back in 2004, I was 24 years old. I have a meeting with Richard Linklater, and Richard Linklater is doing a movie by the book, from Eric Schlosser, Fast Food Nation, and it's gonna be like the traffic of activism.
Right.
And he's putting together a ridiculous cast, and I was privileged to meet with him and tell him, hey, I'm an immigrant, I can relate to the story, I really know what it is, coming to America, taking jobs and doing whatever. That movie took me to Cannes Film Festival, standing next to Ethan Hawke and Greg Kinnear and Patricia Arquette and Bruce Willis, and he looked at us as an actor. My entire role was in Spanish. I played an undocumented worker that crosses the border with his families and takes a job at a slaughterhouse. Wow. And then Richard Linklater and Eric Schlosser said, hey, some young people are listening and people are giving some attention right now. You have an opportunity to say things that matter. And I was like, me? Actors are not supposed to get involved in politics. He goes, yeah, but politics are human issues. And that's what changed everything for me. So in 2005, I go in front of Congress and talk about, immigrant workers and all that, because Richard Linklater and Eric Schlosser were the ones who mentored me to do that. And that's when I became an activist back in 2005. That's when I said, you know what, I have a responsibility with every character, I have a responsibility with everything I say. That's when things drastically change and slow down for me.
Slow down in terms of the acting world, or in terms of?
No, I slowed down in life.
Oh,
I was going around, all the time. Yeah. Like not even the party. Like, I was just trying to do everything, And I was like, whoa, let's be more strategic about this, And but it was thanks to my agency at the time and all that we had a great partnership. Yeah. Shani is my queen. She's everything. Shani Rosenzweig is the best, and she was the one that was like, take your time, take a deep breath, and that moment in time was defining for my transition, And every character I did during the time of the 70s show in the movies was telling the industry, oh, wait a minute, he's not Fez. He's not Fez. He's not Fez. Whoa, I didn't think you could do an entire character in Spanish. Well, he's playing a gangster in the Spike Lee thing. Or right. So all these things are happening where the industry took notice that at any minute now I could have a character in any of these things, And so it really opened the doors. And, I remember another pivotal point for me when I was doing a 70s show, I was doing Handy Manny, I was doing Your Mama, and I just finished, and Fast Food Nation had just premiered in Cannes. And Entertainment Weekly had honored me with 6 pages, The Arrival of Wilmer, and it was like this thing. And I had this anxiety. How much? Wait, we got to do something. What is the next thing? What's the next thing? We got to do the next thing. The next thing. And my agents kind of slow me down. He goes, that's a lot.
6 things or whatever, yeah.
Yeah, you only have 7 days, and I was doing 7 days. So during the weekdays, I would rehearse 70 show. In the afternoons, I would do Handy Manny.
True.
And on the weekends, I would shoot Your Mama on NTV. And then on my weeks off, I would shoot Fast Food Nation.
Wow.
And or another movie. So literally, I was addicted to how much more can I do, and it was consuming me, and I was sick every 3 weeks, and I was, I had bags under my eyes, and I still found time to actually go out and meet my friends and drink a little,
Yeah.
And I wasn't really balanced in the approach,
Yeah.
So Tracy Jacobs and Cheney Ross, his wife, said, hey, we need you to meet somebody. I go, ooh, okay, where are you going? They take me over to the Disney Studios, and we walk in to this big soundstage. And I just reminded this actor I'm going to mention of this story. But walk into this soundstage, and there's this huge ship. And I go, whoa, where are we? We walk out, there's pirates everywhere. I go, wait a minute, where are we? So Tracy represents Johnny Depp.
Uh-huh.
And she wanted me to meet with Johnny. Never met him in my life.
Pirates everywhere.
I am a fanatic of Johnny Depp.
Really?
Because I relate to him and how fearless we are when it comes to creating characters, right? Like, I'll create something that's so far removed from who I am, and people are like, who's this guy, right? And he's perfected that, and he's a pioneer of that.
Yeah.
So we go into his trailer, and we sit down, and he's playing a little music.
Is he in
and
full character?
He's
or no?
in full Black Jack Sparrow. Okay?
Does he speak like a normal human or like Jack Sparrow?
No, he's speaking like a human, like, but he still has the lingo.
Oh,
So Wilmer, come on, welcome. How was it, my friend? And so we're talking, and she just wanted us to kind of meet. She goes, I think you guys should, you could talk. You have some things in common, and
Yeah.
he shared some of the struggles in his early career, how people only wanted to see him as certain things, but he wanted to be Scissorhands, and I started talking to him about, other things like, well, here's what I'm doing. I'm doing this and the animated and the Your Mama on TV and this and whatever, blah. But I feel like, what's the next thing? Like, I got to get the next thing. And I just get this anxiety that I feel like, I feel like I'm having a moment right now, and like we're gathering heat. I feel like we got to keep fueling the fire and keep the steam going, and so the train keeps going fast, and I'm talking like this. And he's smiling, and he looks at Tracy, and then he smiles back, and he goes, Wilmer, let me ask you a simple question. I go, okay. He goes, what's the hurry? Wait. What? What's the hurry? Why are you in such a hurry? And it changed everything in me, because I knew exactly what he was telling me. Because life is a marathon. If you make it a spring, you may not make it. And then I realized I just need to take my time. And because of that advice, I'm a 37 years old, still swinging.
You're not dead.
I'm not dead. And then he asked me, what kind of actor do you want to be? Whoa. Nobody's asked me that before. Do you want to do everything? Or do you want to do every character you want to do? If you want to do every character you want to do, then you want to say no to everything you don't want to do. Because if you're in this hurry, you're going to do things you don't want to do. And it just like...
That's powerful.
It was the recipe. It was a recipe for the like-minded who can believe in themselves and who could take a deep breath and say, it's going to happen when it happens. And when it happens, I'm going to love that moment.
Yeah.
And that's how it happened. And that's one of the things that really, really changed my life. It was, what was the hurry? If you make it a sprint, you're not going to make a marathon. And what kind of actor do I want to be? How do I want to be remembered? Really, I asked myself. And, Fast Food Nation was exactly what I wanted to be remembered for. What he stand for, what he said, who he defended, who I played, the person, the real human being I played in Fast Food Nation is who I wanted to pay respects and honored in every character I did after that. And if it was entertaining, it was like I play a villain, then I was like, it has to be the most awesome villain that you want to be, you know. And then after that, I was able to take a big break, and I took about a 6-year break from television.
Wow.
I took a 6-year break from television and started producing, started directing, started developing, started my production company, and focused on making Handy Manny one of the most, you know, the biggest show. And because he was helping people, and because families were so proud of having this little bilingual character teach, they're either Caucasian or African American or Asian or you know, or everybody else that will watch this show of any ethnicity, to be proud of appreciating a second language, appreciating your culture, never forgetting your roots. And I was like, that's what I want to do. And then in those 6 years, I became an activist. And Rosario Dawson and I, you know, were part of the whole wave of Voto Latino. Started with the census, then with registering people to vote. Then after that, it morphed into more activism and starting with, you know, programs like Ready to Lead for the Congressional Hispanic Caucus, which was a college readiness program for minorities, so they understand what's out there and how they can actually make college attainable. And then, you know, after school programs, and I just got addicted to touching people and having them, you know, see a light that I saw at one point. And then eventually from then on, you know, I somehow started working with President Obama on immigration reform. And working with him was one of the proudest moments of my life, you know. And then from then on, you know, we went on to create other things. And today, we, you know, America Ferrera and I created Harness, Harness.space. You know, you can go check it out. And it's really an organization that kind of puts together all the community leaders and the movements of the human rights, and having them not only commute with one another, but share each other's strengths and weaknesses, and then have a second category of people that have certain resources, whether it's filmmaking or funding or you know, certain ideas or tech or marketing, to leverage that and have them all be in the same room and help one another move the needle when it comes to defending what the country should be about.
Yeah.
And Harness is something that's one of my proudest, you know, things that I co-founded as well. But in those 6 years, I became fearless to defend my family, my Latino family. My parents were immigrants, and said that I came from an immigrant family who came fearlessly to America and built things. And then, you know, from then on, in those same years, I went and traveled. I went to Iraq, Afghanistan, Germany, you know, Greenland, you know, South Korea, visiting the troops, and, you know, and really getting to know the men and women who fight for our freedom and for the flag that we celebrate, and the American dream that we all live. And in that moment, since that moment when I met, you know, Johnny, and then getting those words of advice from my agents, and remembering what my dad's told me, my parents told me, in that window, I perfected the man I wanted to be.
Wow.
And became exactly who I am right now, and who won't change but only learns. Well, today I look myself in the mirror and I say, you are Wilmer Valderrama. And you know, what does that mean to you, Wilmer? That means someone that is fearless, you know, someone that believes that anything is possible, and the only thing impossible is what you told yourself was going to be. And honestly, just a proud, you know, a proud son, you know, proud of his parents, and proud of the sacrifice. But, you know, humbly so, I just think, you know, I've become exactly the person that I would look up to if I was Wilmer. And again, I only say it in the most humble terms. That only means so much to me. Doesn't mean anything to anybody else. But I've become exactly the person that Wilmer Valderrama will look up to. And that's the only person I want to be.
That's cool.
You know, so when I think back at all those years and all those mistakes and all those, you know, lessons, it's hard to regret anything, you know.
Yeah, it's great, man.
Because it's giving me the spirit that makes me live life today, for sure. You know, it's simple now. I mean, it's simple is to continue to do things I like. It really is simple. You know, If you asked me this 10 years ago, I would say an empire.
Yeah.
You know, I'm going to build an empire. And now, to me, the empire I have is only as influential as the people I surround myself with, and the reach and the change and the impact that it has on people and on society. And unity has become really the spirit of that empire. It's not about how much can I achieve, it's how much can we do. And it's never, I mean, I learned very quickly that I dream very small, but we dream very big.
Yeah.
You know, I also, learned that the vision for what's next, it's about creating a seed, divorcing it, emptying your pockets and the table, everybody around the table empty their pockets, and then build a Lego house from there. That's it. That is, to me, the recipe for success today and for the future, is understanding you have weaknesses, and those weaknesses are going to be somebody else's strength. So you have to never assume that weakness you're going to make a strength, because if you only focus on your strength and you allow somebody else to share their strength with you, you both just win.
That is strong.
And I was a one-person band for like almost 10 years of my life.
Tried to do it all yourself.
Tried to do it all myself. And I got some things done, but not at the impact that I thought it would be. Because it wasn't about the credit, and it wasn't about the ego. It was about no, I can do this, right? But a real leader empowers, right? A real leader inspires. And that empowerment and inspiration turns things into reality. It's not you did it and you came and assembled this table. It's not that somebody had to cut this wood. You don't cut wood. You're not a carpenter.
No.
You don't make legs of steel either.
No.
Right? But in order to build this table, I got to get us all together. You're the carpenter. You build the steel, but I got the screws and I know exactly how we're going to angle it.
Right.
And now we all can successfully, share this table together.
Yeah.
And everybody wins.
Yeah.
So I think that's my vision, is to continue to share the success that I build with the people that I respect and love so much, that I happen to be sharing my everyday with right now, and having a heart open to welcome everybody else to say, hey man, what else can we build together? I mean, very simple for me. I live by them, and I just hope I can pass this on to my children as well. Number one is what my dad said to me. I think it's, if you win, great. If you didn't, awesome, right? Number two, I think that never live life with the anxiety that you're not going to achieve, right? So what's the hurry, right? Take your time in building a foundation that's not going to be broken, right?
Yeah.
Take your time. I think that's number two. Take your time and enjoy the time, right? Take your time and enjoy that time. It's a moment what we have, right? The last one is something that Robin Williams, I had the privilege of asking him for advice. Robin Williams said to me, he came to the set of 70 show visiting Kurtwood Smith because they've done Dead Poets Society. And I said, at like 19 years old, I said, hey, Mr. Williams. He goes, call me Robin. And he was already on, I said, okay, Robin, a word of advice for a young buck like me, man. If I look up to all your comedy and all that stuff. And he said to me, okay, word of advice. He gave me two, but I'm going to give you the one that I want on that list, right? So he said, always remember and never forget that it's supposed to be fun. And that set the tone for the guideline. If it wasn't fun, I was doing something wrong.
Yeah.
If it wasn't fun, I wasn't prepared enough. If it wasn't fun, probably at the wrong place. Shouldn't be here. But everything is supposed to be fun. I apply it to my acting. If I'm not enjoying this character, I'm not doing something right, or this is not right. I'm not at the right place where I'm supposed to be. So I would say those are the three things. The last one to me is one of the most important ones, because we forget to have fun when we work for our goals. We sometimes feel like we have to sacrifice and we have to put ourselves through pain and that we have to be sore in the morning. But you have to understand that you have time. That no matter the outcome, you're going to win anyways, as long as you make it fun.
What was the second thing you said?
The second thing was about fans. He said to me, so when you meet your fans, because you're going to have fans, they're going to have 2 or 3 minutes of your time for the rest of their life. What 2 or 3 minutes do you want them to walk away with? I never have a bad day in front of my fans. My fans come up, they want to say hi, take a deep breath. If I'm going through something,
you smile.
if I'm stressed, I want to give them the same energy they give me. When they give me, they have this, when their eyes, when they meet me for the first time, sometimes there's tears, sometimes there's laughter, sometimes they go into this place where they remember all these characters, or they listen to all the quotes that I put on Instagram or Twitter and all that, and they quote me back and they say that you've helped me so much. You know, the things that you said really helped me while I was getting through this hard time, or even as far as saying like, you know, today I didn't think about harming myself because you made me smile today. And all these things have to be met with the same compassion and the same love they give me. And, you know, if all my fellow actors and musicians are listening to this, it's a lot easier to give a smile in the moment. It's a lot easier to take 3 minutes than hide and elaborately not connect with your people. So to me, that's very, very important to me, you know. 2 or 3 minutes, yes, of course. Picture, no problem. What do you want me to sign? Of course. What do you want to tell me? This and this and this. Great. Keep digging.
Yeah.
Keep climbing.
Thanks for saying hi. And
yeah.
See you later.
I appreciate you saying hi. That's the only way. That's the way I finish every encounter. Thank you for saying hi. I appreciate you coming up. I know not everyone's like that, but
yeah.
But I will say that's my philosophy.